Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith,
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
and we're hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 103 for April 11th, 2022. Microsoft Journal graduates from Garage. We'll tell you all about that. Each week, we review and discuss the productivity and technology news headlines of the week, and we usually start that off with the personal productivity articles and podcasts that are in the blogosphere and audiosphere each week. And then after the break, we come back and we talk about the technology articles and our featured story of the week, and we share some resources of the week. And so, with that, let's kick it off with our productivity articles this week. Augusto, what's our first article?
So the first article is an article from Ajay, and is referring to another word, a Wall Street Journal article that is talking about people returning to landlines, to Ethernet cables, to going back and to stop using wireless technology because all the diminish of that and how they are not reliable and Bluetooth is not reliable and how we're going back to 20 years ago to make the internet great again. And um, as extremist as this sound, and it is, okay, I think is really a symptom of the overwhelm of people, of what people is seeing. Yes, you know what, let me connect it so that way I cannot grab this computer and be connected to email and problems anywhere I go. Let me put landline so that way I can go and take away a walk and be disconnected. And the reality is, no, what you need is not to stop using the technology, is to learn how to limit the use that you do on that device. And I have multiple devices, and part of the reason I have multiple devices is exactly what this article described, except I don't want an Ethernet cable. Okay, I don't want to go again to go and plug the cable in here and go put it through the window so I can sit in the backyard with the Ethernet cable, as I may or may have not done many years ago. I love the fact that I can grab my iPad and I have data. But what is happening is we have seen, especially in the productivity people, because we tend to be sometimes more tech savvy, that we do all our devices to be fully capable, and then we never disconnect. So we want our Kindle to connect to the news and beep when the things happen, and our phone to receive everything, and so far so on. Well, the solution to something like this is simple: start limiting your devices consciously. I have talked many times about how my cell phone do not get email. I don't use email on my phone. I carry the iPad with me 99% of the time. So if I'm going to review, I will pull my iPad out, but I will not do it on the phone. And that is a way to return to that. If I don't want to look emails and I just want to move to the couch and the iPad stay behind, there is no email, no notification, no beeping. Your email will never reach me. So without going to the extreme, and I think the extreme is worth to recover, I think this is a cry for begin understanding better what we do. The problem is we went from uncapable devices to extremely capable devices, and we never noticed that we were having the fun to allow every device to do everything they possibly could.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said here. This article just screams for me the privilege that we all have and should be grateful
Absolutely.
for. I think we get so wrapped around the axle when we think about what is lacking in the technology. When snap back 20 or 30 years ago and just think about the remarkable progress we've made in that time frame. And the other side to this is it's an issue of satisficing, right? You do the best you can with what you have when you have it. And to complain to me about what it is you cannot do all the time is not helping you move forward. So, my whole goal is to like find out what it is you can do right now with the assets you have, right? The time, the energy, the resources you are given in a given moment. And here and now, what can you do? And the last thing I particularly think about when that comes to mind is all of the things I can complain about in writing on the interwebs. It's just not part of my ethos. But like I think that the interesting thing here is that we know that technology will continue to get better, and the hope that, say, AirPods and Bluetooth or even Wi-Fi 6, and all of these other standards that we think of in the world as being great, uh, talking about the connected versus wireless world as being the defining line between what is good and what is bad about technology is an edge. Like that's a real edge. You know, I if I were so inclined to complain, which I'm not above. I'm not casting judgment without taking that judgment myself. I'm still aware of the fact that I would complain about battery technology way before I complained about wireless technology. And so I think this just kind of misses the mark for me, only because I just don't feel the same about it. And you know me, I have lots of frustrations with many of the wireless technologies that I use in everyday life, but that that's a yeah, that's a place of privilege for me to be like, oh, I frequently joke to myself, well, that's a first world problem, and it brings me back to
It is.
reality, right? Which is that there are a lot of reasons for me to be unhappy with technology, but all of those are far, far lower on the priority, rung than other things in my life. And I need to be grateful for this moment, this very precious moment I have of life, and putting my attention and focus on the right things. All right, moving on to our next story.
So the next article from Fatuous Things, and it's how managers can use time tracking to improve their team productivity. And these are articles that for me are always, I don't, how about trust? Okay, and then you don't need to track this. I'm not against tracking data. I track a lot of data about me, but do I want to my employer to track all that data about me just to have the data? Because the problem is how you're going to use the data as the manager, and how you're going to use that data to measure against your measure system and how things work. And I don't remember where I read, when they talk about entrepreneurs and small business owners, and they said the problem is it's crazy to expect that your employee as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, are going to want to work the same as you, or is going to expect that they're going to work the same as you. And to a certain extent, as managers, it's the same. It's what is your expectation, and what you expect people to work. What is all that, and that is important to figure it out. And do you want to measure because you want to identify process, the articles go, you want to find out what are your employees productive hours, or you want to do it for other reasons? I think measurement is great, as the article mentioned. Find the productive hours, uncover areas of improvements, avoid burnout, allow flexible schedules. Okay, the question is, where else are you want to use that data? And that is where I start putting my brakes. They mentioned Time Doctor. Yeah, Time Doctor is great. Rescue Time, but Rescue Me is a fantastic one too. Again, how you're going to use this data as an employer is where my big red flag comes out.
Yeah, I think there are different perspectives on this, and I myself am ambivalent about the different perspectives. On one side, as an employer, I think about the reality that if I have someone who is a salaried employee, I don't particularly care how they spend their time, and I just care about their results. I do care about how they spend their time, though, toward running themselves into the ground, which is why this article actually appealed to me in some sense, because products like Microsoft Viva and even I forget the name of the product we talked about some time ago that connects to Google Workspace that does the same kind of thing that Viva does. And I'm probably
Mhm.
conflating some of the details there, but I'm pretty sure it was something that basically analyzed how people utilize Google Workspace and gave the enterprise information back in that sense. And to some extent, Google Calendar's insights, time insights, gives you some of that information. How are you spending time? That's on the individual level. And I know that in Microsoft Viva, on the enterprise level, you can see some of that data as a manager or as an organizational administrator. And to that sense, I can appreciate the notion of wanting to make sure you're caring for your employees in that sense. Now, if we step that down to hourly workers and contract workers who are working either on project or hourly, project fee or hourly basis, that's when I'm a little bit more concerned about this concept of tracking, because you actually are concerned about whether or not they are doing work in the appropriate amount of time in order to get to the same results. And so I'm of two minds there, and I'm not quite sure there's an immediate, you know, litmus that you can say, this is the litmus test. If you reach this standard, then that's okay across the board. I think every company, every role, and really every manager needs to make a choice as it relates to whether or not this is going to help or hurt the trust between the manager, employer, and the employee or direct report, and also whether or not it's going to actually help increase their productivity, because it may just
Mhm.
inevitably backfire and cause them to be less productive. There can be enough of a breaking of that bond and more of a feeling of pressure to track time that will cause them those issues. And I know that time and time again, one of the first things I ask business owners who become my clients to do is to start tracking their time. And the reality is it takes a lot of effort for them to overcome this point if they're not already regularly used to tracking their own time for billable purposes. So there's just a reality there. We both need to kind of think about the relationship and also think about whether this information is actually useful to that individual. And I think that for some people, it really is. The moment they start to look at, oh, this is how I'm using my time, and now I can use it better, well, that becomes useful to them. But if they don't have that growth mindset, a la Carol Dweck and her research on
Mhm.
a growth mindset, I think that people will tend to regress, shut down, and potentially perform worse, at least in the short term. I'm not sure about how in the long term. But it's certainly something that's interesting to kind of muddle over as you make your way through some of these decisions. All right, Laura Ernst.
So our next article is from Laura and just talking about let's clean out the mental clutter. And it it was interesting that clutter, isolation, removing the mental clutter. Okay, write everything down. Take a realistic look, time block to get out of there. Purge, get some rest, get unstuck. And as I was reading this, we were talking recently about the change that is coming. That we were normal life, then we went to live in this isolation of the COVID, and now we are seems to be going back into the office, but in a different way. We're not going back to what we did in 2019. We're going back into this hybrid model. And it is overwhelming for a lot of people to now being what was called many years ago a road warrior, where you work some days in here, some days in there. You get to this office and you don't have a space in many cases. So you work in this place or that place. And that is pretty close to what a road warrior was. So, or is. So there is a lot that is going to come that it's going to the people is going to need help to remove and all those things that are going to come. And this article make a good list of some of them.
Yeah, so I will say that we are not yet out of the pandemic. There is
Mhm.
still a long way to go, and there's it's a different kind. It's reached a new stage, right, where it's a little bit different. but we are still in it. For example, here in the United States, for those of you who are in the States, the city of Philadelphia is going to go back to indoor mask mandates as we see the increase in COVID-19 cases rise. And so, that's right in Augusto's backyard. And while I'm a couple 300 miles or so west of that, it's not over yet. And I think that this by itself is a reason why what Laura's talking about here in terms of kind of protecting our focus, protecting our mental safe space, which is our ability to concentrate, is our area of kind of control where we are able to actually spend productive time throughout the day on the things that mean something to us. I think that it's really important for us to do what we can environmentally to make sure that that works for us. So it really, for me, it really resonated because of that fact that, this is a time when I feel there is a great deal of anxiety. There is, frustration and all kinds of things going on in both political theater, but also in the global health, because we are all dealing with this together in a way. And so, I can only say go hug your spouse, your child, your friends and neighbors, and masked or otherwise, if you need to. But this is a time to really re-embrace people and figure out how to make sure that you're staying well mentally, because we're in for the long haul, and it's going to be not as easy as we think it's going to be. And so I'm just reading through the kind of quick checklist of items really did make sense to me and made me want to make sure that I was taking care of those pieces for myself as
Mhm.
well, and more from an environmental perspective. Like I want to make sure my environs are set up for mental decluttering, which is not allowing visual auditory distractions to bring me away from the work that I'm focused on at any given moment. All right, so with that, we have reached the end of our stories for the productivity articles this week. And so, with that, we're going to take a quick break, just a minute, for a word from our sponsor this week, and then we'll be back for our technology articles after the break. We'll see you then.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating, and there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/coworking to see how Co-working Space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith, joined with Augusto Pinaud for the second half of the show. And we're going to move on now to our tech stories. After that, we'll do our productivity resources of the week. And then we will click into our featured story of the week and talking about Microsoft Journal. So, Augusto, what is our first story this week for the tech
So
articles?
Todoist is going to help you to do spring cleaning, apparently, and they add a new feature where before you could do, swipe and decide to do complete or schedule a task. Now you will be able to do complete, schedule, or delete a task. So it will be really great, especially when you're on the phone, to be able to go and delete tasks. I don't delete them. I may, maybe that's what I need to start deleting stuff in my system. Okay. That may not be that. I may need to reread this article and decide to start deleting stuff out of my system.
Yeah, I think it's great. They fixed some bugs. They did some really good stuff. But I like the idea of being able to do some, quick actions, these swipe actions, to be able to, clean up the barnacle of tasks that have just been flowing from week to week to week, and they're not getting done. Well, do they need to be done? And that's a really good way to kind of think about it. All right.
Next article is about the Apple new subscription service for IT management, so they can manage everything on the iPad. And they introduced it as a limited beta last year, and now is available for basically any small um, business. So Apple is talking about any organization who has fewer than 500 employees can now be included into this to be able to manage all those devices. Schools can do it similarly with the Apple School Manager, but now this is going to be available for small business, and I think it's great.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, I'm really, really pleased to see something like this come along, and the pricing seems pretty reasonable. You're talking $3 to $7, $3 to $13. It looks like per employee per month, and there are so many small business owners that. Am I getting that right? There's a
Yep.
little bit more complexity to the pricing, but
There,
either way,
there is, but yeah, but the starting price is
yeah,
$3 per employee, and that will cover the device, and then 50 gigabytes of iCloud storage. And you
then
can
you can
go up to
up.
$13 for 2 terabytes.
Got it. Got it. So the $7 is for 200 gigabytes, $13 for the 2 terabytes, and then they have a Apple Care Plus for Business Essentials, which is additional for different device tiers. But this is great because I know so many small business owners who are on Apple devices. Maybe they're solos and they need someone to support them, and they don't have that person. And it would just be really helpful to have them do that. And then they have hired their first employee or second employee, and that's as big as their business is ever going to be. It's as big as it needs to be, and they just need to be able to shield the business with regard to IT and ICT support. And
Correct.
so I wish they would update their language so that they were saying ICT as opposed to just IT now. But either way, I like the idea of having backup management and device management, and then of course technical support so people can do these kinds of things. I wonder how the basic onboarding and configuration is, and how basic the technical support is, because if you're in the Apple Care Plus space, you should be getting pretty good support from Apple for those issues. And then if you're on the business tier, I'm presuming that there is some kind of SLA that's even better for you there as well. Yeah, this is I'm really, really pleased, and I hope that more businesses become aware of this so that they are not taxing themselves, and certainly not taxing employees, because you know how this works, right? It's like the tech savviest person in the office becomes your ICT manager. I was once that person, and it was like,
I've been
oh,
that person many times.
and now you have double duty, right? You have to do your own job, and while it's fun and interesting to deal with the technology, it's not what you're there for. And so you end up having to do more than you're getting paid for, and there's some level of frustration there of people around you expecting you to train, to support them, and to deal with the 2 a.m. phone call when the servers go down, and you're like, when since did that become my fault that or my responsibility? And also I see a lot of people who they don't know how to actually manage a server properly. And
Right.
so when the servers do go down, they go down more often than they probably should, because you asked, Belinda in accounting to take over the servers. It's not Belinda's job, and she didn't go to school for, ICT, admin management. So, like, just some great extent, small business owners need to remember that, and they need to have the appropriate inbuilt either MSPs, managed service providers, and other ICT admin support. And I think this is another tool in the toolkit, especially if you're an all Apple shop. I can imagine a lot of design firms and a lot of studios that are just, they're using Apple as their infrastructure, and now they could just depend upon Apple to manage that stuff for them, and Apple's going to do a good job with that. So,
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So
all
our
right, on
next
to our next one.
news is from Chrome Unboxed, and you will be able to use Google Meet directly into docs and sheets and slides and for face-to-face editing. And I'm not a big fan of Google Doc, okay, but I cannot deny that is the best collaboration platform that exists. No Apple, no Microsoft, no nothing else can do this better. And the reality is that being able to add that face for that meeting, for that document in this remote work, it is something really, really fantastic that I'm really looking forward to add.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great. I mean, the ability to be able to have the document take focus and the meeting to be embedded within the document.
Oh, it's
Uh,
going to be
uh,
fantastic.
yeah, I'm currently working on a manuscript with a co-author, and now I feel like the ability to do that work now inside of what is already a Google document just becomes that much easier, And so, why should we have to navigate around having the meeting and then sharing the screen and all of those kinds of things when in reality, what we really want to be doing is communicating around the document that we're working on and graphic designer with the slide deck for presentations. I just see so many different opportunities here to be able to make this work. And, I think that Google Meet has done a really good job here within Google Workspace to make this, practically speaking, practically workable. And so
Yeah.
I did also want to note that for those of you who heard us last week talking about the Google Calendar public scheduling pages, those should now be live in all accounts. So they are now out of rapid release and into general release. And so everybody should be seeing those. And so I will let you know as soon as I've had a chance to play around both with Google Meet inside of the Google Documents and also the Google Calendar public pages, the public scheduling pages. I will let you know what my experience are with those two products as we make our way forward.
Yeah, and you're skipping the announcements, but since
Oh,
we
sorry.
did, let's bring the announcement in that feature was available for most people today. So if you are into the plans that Google has established, and it's escaping me right now which ones they are, you are able to look and start getting that page and start creating those things. I play a little bit with it today, and it is going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, so you have to have business standard or higher. So business standard, business plus or higher, and I think that's that same thing applies across the board with regard to education. All the enterprise accounts get it, and then I think Workspace Essentials something or other gets it. I think it's not the base level plan, but it's the one above that. So there's a tier above that that gets it, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but either way, you can't get it at the business starter plan. You do need to be at least business standard or business plus. And I just think, if it replaces Calendly or Schedule Once or one of these other tools that you're using, Acuity scheduling, and just getting rid of one of those things, that's a line item you're taking off the budget,
Mhm.
and that becomes a more profitable business. So why the heck not? It may not actually satisfy your needs, so just be mindful of that. It may not do exactly what you want it to do, so just be careful not to immediately cancel your subscription to the other tools. You do need to test it first and make sure that it works in the way that you want it to. But either way, very happy about the Google Meet calls and Google Docs. And again, I'm hoping that they bring this beyond Docs, Sheets, and Slides. I hope that they then start pulling this into other tools within the Google Workspace ecosystem. So, say, for example, I'm in Google Drive and I'm working on a number of different documents within a shared drive or within a space, and now I can take that space and have people in it, and we can be working on those things together in those ways. I'm not
Mhm.
sure that's where they're going to go, but it would be awfully nice to be able to just do those kinds of meetings without having to worry about are my eyes on the camera, because I'm looking at the material that's important to me, and so should everybody else, right? So we should be focused on the thing that is the work product, not focused on making eye contact with the camera that we're trying to, it's a weird feeling of working remotely in that way. And so I think this hopefully will help mold us in a better way toward more productivity focused work, as opposed to the interpersonal components of having to deal with that while you're trying to get work done. Okay, on to our next story this week.
Our next is Google delays again when legacy G Suites will start getting built. Initially was May 1st. Now they move it to July 1st. And well, we will continue seeing what is going to happen and what that, if you're going to start paying or the no cost will continue staying there.
Yeah, so that people are aware, you had to make a choice as it related to a particular plan, by May 1. Now you have to choose that plan by June 1, and billing will start July 1. Now, at least in the Google, I've had several G Suite legacy plans, that I use for demo accounts and otherwise, and that's fine. That they're going to charge now, totally cool with that. But when I went in, it allowed me to upgrade to, I believe it was like either standard or plus, and it had a pretty good like 6 month time frame of discount, and then even I'm sorry, a free tier, and then even after that, it had a 50% discount for another, I'm guessing a year, another 6 months. So definitely go into your account and make sure you go to the admin console, then go to billing and click on the switch on the different plans to see what discounts Google is giving you for the upgrade from G Suite to Google Workspace. And I would just really recommend that you go look at that now and get the discount, because it's going to potentially, I don't know, but potentially it's going to give you the same free time going forward. But then after July 1st, then it's probably going to, cancel out those discounts and just start billing you. So you might as well get some free extra time out of this. You're going to have to choose a plan and put it in a credit card, and you're going to have to pay after that discount period is over. But why the heck not take advantage of the, really the very nice benefit Google has been giving all of the folks who have been upgrading from G Suite Legacy up to Google Workspace. So I think that it's you know I'm incredibly grateful to Google, because they've been saving me this money all this time using these free demo accounts. But now they want people to pay, which is legitimate. They're providing a service. They want to get paid for it. And but if they're going to give you another 6 months or a year for free, go take advantage of it while it's still available. So that's all I have to say about that. And it's just a short delay. I mean, they've punted it by a month, so it's not like you're getting that much more time to make a choice. They're just asking you to make a choice. So you need to go ahead and do that. And I know that they are going to give people a plan to basically offboard of G Suite onto a free plan of some kind. Of course, you'll be then limited in what you can do, and you'll probably lose domain and so on and so forth. So just be mindful of that as you make your way forward. All right, Augusto. With that ends our tech articles for the week, and that brings us along to productivity resources of the week. Augusto and I come across many personal productivity tools, apps, and services in our productivity journeys to put together anything but idle each week. And so in this segment, productivity resources of the week, we each bring you one, new or old, we think you might like. And this week, I'm going to be talking about a tool called Oku, and I have been following and paying attention to this for quite some time, and just recently got access to Oku. And what Oku is it helps you basically track what you're reading. And think of it as like a bookshelf, and it's a semi-social bookshelf. So you can organize your book and your book highlights and collections of those collections of those books, and it's all available on phone or tablet. And unfortunately, I couldn't share my iPad screen to show you this today. But the idea here is that you have this app, and I wonder if I can show it to you. Let's see if I can show it to you on screen here. I'm going to make Augusto go away for a moment so I can see if I can show this. But the idea here is that you have the app. And so you can see here, I've created a personal productivity collection, and I have gone ahead and put together a bunch of, my favorite productivity books and put them into this space. And so you can organize and collect them, and you can, of course, see what you're reading, what you want to read and what you have read, and setting goals and so on and so forth. There is a free version to this, and it seems fairly reasonable, the free version. After that, once you go beyond the free version, then you can upgrade to, I think it's about $7 a month or $56 per year, and then you can become a supporter beyond premium and pay $130 per year. I'm not sure what the monthly rate is, but that's for someone who really, really wants to who believes in this project and wants to support them. But otherwise, the premium service that gives you everything you need beyond the free stuff is the premium version. It's $7 a month or $56 a year, and that gives you personal reading stats. You can save highlights from your book. So in the free version, you can't save highlights. You can set up yearly reading goals. You can have a premium profile badge, access to a subscriber Discord, and all kinds of other fun little provisional changes as they go ahead and upgrade the platform. But it seems like a really interesting tool that if you just want something to manage your current reading, Oku may work for you. And again, you've got to be in the Apple ecosystem, and this is why this probably won't work for me. But if you're all Apple and you want to just basically be able to manage what you're doing, we might want to check out Oku. OKU. Okay, Guse, what's your tool this week?
So thank you very much for giving me more work. So I have talked about GoodNotes many times here in Anything But Idle, and I have recommended as a tool. But the reason I'm bringing it back is, well, one, because our feature notice and our feature story, but second is because GoodNotes just make a change recently to go free. It wasn't expensive to begin with. It was $8, okay? But now they decide to let more people test the app. So you can download it for free. You can have up to 3 notebooks, without paying anything. And if you decide that the app is as good as they say it is, and as good as I think it is, then pay the $8 and go. With that, you will get, among other things, unlimited notebooks, handwriting recognition. Being able to search my handwriting is priceless, especially because it's ugly and I don't know how they can recognize it, but they do. The ability to import documents via email. So it is a really, really powerful application. And now they give you another excuse to test it. You can go download it and have up to 3 notebooks for free.
Yeah, Augusto is the one who turned me on to GoodNotes, and I had been testing between Notability and GoodNotes, and I landed on GoodNotes purely because I knew that if I ever had a question or anything else like that, I had Augusto to ask, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, everything that GoodNotes does and the way it does it has been just really seamless for me. I've not really had any reason to think twice about the decision to go with GoodNotes. So if you are looking for an iPad or iOS focused note-taking application, it just does such a brilliant job at being able to collect together those handwritten notes. It always works. I mean, such a stable application. I never have a problem with it, taking handwriting and drawing on it, and I've not, I'm not a pen tester, but you know what I mean, or a QA tester, but I mean, it's been really, really used a lot, and I haven't had any hiccups with regard to the application. So very, very pleased with it.
Yeah, same
All right.
here. I have not had many issues.
No, not at all. And so with that brings us along to our featured story this week, which is Microsoft Journal graduates from Garage. And what that means is, you want to explain it, Augusto?
Well, I can. So Microsoft is trying to do her first experience for Ink first experience with this app called Journal. You cannot test it unless you have a Windows machine that can write. That was my stop point. Sorry.
So no worries.
So they are claiming that this is a different application, and this time is personal. This is for you to journal, for you to draw, for you to have pages, you sit on tablets or 2-in-1 devices. You can touch the scroll page, you can drag and drop text, you can integrate it obviously with your calendar to take notes, you can import and make up PDF images, and there is a subscription that is required with all this. And there were 2 things that came to my mind when I read about this. One is why? Okay, why not fix OneNote, okay, and make it good? Okay. Now let me get out of my box and then go to question number 2. Is that devices as the remarkable 2 and the such really eating Microsoft lunch? Because that's the only reason for me to think into this. The way some of these things are explained and shown, it seems to took to the remarkable 2 and let me answer you why Microsoft Journal will be better.
So let's clarify a couple of things here. First, for folks who are and do have a Microsoft Surface or another, like an Acer Switch 7 or whatever they are now, 9. So I'm not sure where the Acer Switches are now. But if you have a pen-based Microsoft Windows system, you should be able to install the Microsoft Journal application. It itself, the download is free. If you want additional features connected, then you have to have a Microsoft 365 account, either work or school. And if I'm mistaken, clarify for me, Augusto. But that was my understanding from reading through the materials from
Correct.
Microsoft.
That's why you need a subscription.
Yeah, so I installed it on the Microsoft Surface Pro that I have at home, and was playing around with it this morning. Perfectly fine application. Everything seems in place. What I think is interesting about Microsoft Journal, which came out of the Microsoft Garage, which is we've talked about Google's area project, or Area 120. I forget what they call it now, Area 120, right? Where they have their various kind of working projects. Microsoft Garage is the equivalent at the Microsoft Enterprise, and so the idea is that it started as this kind of pet project, and it has now grown into something that they feel like could actually be a part of the 365 ecosystem, and that's why they're bringing it in. Now, this looks to me like a GoodNotes notability type challenger on the Surface line, as opposed to thinking about, say, for example, Apple Notes and GoodNotes on the iPad, right? Like, very, very different applications, and at the same time, there is plenty of space for those applications to live and work together in the same ecosystem. And I think that's what we're dealing with here with regard to OneNote and Microsoft Journal. I can see a lot of people who are purely pen specific. They only want to write and draw, and they do not want to type their notes. And Journal will satisfy that for them. And so I see that as being kind of the audience here. Is it my like my working operating perspective? Probably not. But I will say that if I were an all Samsung device shop, right? I have a Windows 11 Samsung Tab S, and that's an Android device. But like there's a touch screen in that space. There's some Lenovo Yoga books that are touch screen as well. But if I were in the Samsung ecosystem and I had a touchscreen Samsung Galaxy, whatever, there's a couple of them that are touch screens, and I had across the ecosystem all of my various devices with my S Pen, and I was just doing my thing. I could see how this application would be a nice complement to that if I didn't want the baggage of OneNote, right? Because OneNote is a big application. It's not as intuitive in my mind as it is for others, and that's not to say that OneNote doesn't work for people. I think it does, but I just feel like for my brain and how I think about it, the way in which they've just constructed OneNote is just a little bit different. That the way in which they've constructed Microsoft Journal looks very simple. The user interface seems very simple. It seems very, very intuitive. It looks very much like GoodNotes in the way in which it operates. You have a little notebook. You have the ability to click on the notebook and then directly enter the pad and start writing. That just seems far more intuitive than I think OneNote is. If you want to use OneNote, you need to be trained on OneNote, and then you can be unleashed on the product, right? It's not the opposite. You jump into OneNote and start just putting things in there, it becomes a veritable nightmare very, very quickly, because you're just not able to figure out where things are. And it's a little bit different than, say, a more opinionated software like Evernote, which provides you a very clear structure, and you can't deviate from that structure. Whereas with OneNote, it gives you a lot of flexibility to deviate from the structure, and that creates some problems for people in being able to capture data and then retrieve that data very easily. So that's where my thoughts are with Microsoft Journal. I don't know if you have any additional kind of thoughts there.
No, I think I think they did certain things really well. You will be able to select the text that you handwrite and then convert it into text. Again, they pick from a lot of the good note-taking apps, and they're bringing it to this application. My We will see. I am not convinced the why of this product, the why this product is needed in the Microsoft world, um, and really if it's going to be adopted. It will, unless what they want is to try to improve all handwritings and everything else into OneNote. It's awful. So why don't make OneNote more pen friendly? But again, I think the things they announced, I have not been able to play with it. I don't have a Surface anymore, and so I don't really have a machine to play with it. But what I read and I was able to read, they're trying to give you that notebook capability with the Surface, or your two-in-one that has touchscreen. I think that's a move on the right direction. I don't know if it's going to be adopted fast enough for Microsoft.
Yeah, I think they have plenty of time. Microsoft is gonna work this application and figure out what and where it is. It's also a showcase of their artificial intelligence technologies, and so they really focused in on the AI that is baked into Journal and how it was being utilized for being able to seamlessly detect what you're trying to do with any particular object on screen with the pen, and then be able to do that thing so that you don't have to switch between tools in order for you to say figure out that you're trying to lasso a piece of text or an object and move it to another place on the page, the ability to collaborate with others. And I like the notion of them having, in essence, you have journals. So, Evernote has notebooks. In the OneNote space, you have, what are they called? What are they called? They're I forget what the uh,
They're
container
notebooks.
are they
They're not
also
notebooks.
I don't
They're like
remember. But
notebooks.
then you have pages, and so Journal also has pages, and so then you have pages and you have cards within journals. So think of it as the cards being elements and the pages being canvases, and then you have the journals themselves, these individual journals. And so it's an interesting flavor of thinking about note taking in that way. And so I'm actually really curious, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this and whether or not they can bring this to a broad enough audience to have the data set to be able to see whether this is a useful productivity tool to and for the masses.
Yeah, we will see. Yeah, no, OneNote is notebooks, and then it's notes and sections, or
Yeah, but they
sections.
have,
And
yeah, but they have pages, right? So OneNote
yeah,
has
you
pages.
do you do sections, and then you add pages to the sections.
Right, it's a very strange, like, it doesn't grok in my head. I just, like, it just consistently makes me confused whenever I think about it, and I spend a lot of time with clients in OneNote. So, like, do not count yourself as being, bad or wrong, when it comes to OneNote. If you are hearing me, just know that even those of us who spend a lot of time in OneNote are also just as confused. But like that's just the way that Microsoft has kind of deemed it. And you know what it is? It's because pages don't have clear edges in my mind, and so therefore it just doesn't like it just yeah, it just doesn't work. I don't know. It's just one of those things, and I have nothing against OneNote personally. It just the pages and subpages and the sections they just bleed together in my mind, and I don't have that clear cut in terms of like, okay, this is the end of that thing.
OneNote is a piece of software that I particularly wanted to love, okay, for so many
Mhm.
years, and it's always so disappointed at the end of the day.
Yeah. What you gonna do? But all right, we have reached the end of our featured
And
story
we have a
this
couple
week,
of
so we've
announcements
got some
this week.
announcements.
So the first one is some Chromebooks cameras are not working with the latest Chrome update. Mine was one of those. The camera that we're using right now is a Lenovo 5 or Lenovo Duet 5. And suddenly I went to upgrade and it died. And before the article came out, I even tried to go back to this previous system. No, and I thought it was a hardware issue until I found the article that is, or we found the article that is on the show notes. So as far as I know, they are the Acer Chromebook 14 HP Chromebook X2 11, that Lenovo Duet 5 Chromebook, Lenovo 10e Chromebook, Google Pixelbook Go. Google is ashamed that happened to you. Sorry, but I need to say it. Acer Chromebook Spin 13. Those are the ones that are having the issue. At least for mine, that is the Duet 5, that issue has been fixed. The update came in already and is fixed. I don't know about the others, to be honest.
Yeah, and so that people are aware, the whole Chromebook doesn't die. It's just that the camera stops
The
operating.
camera, yes.
So the camera stopped operating on them, and so if you are in need of your Chromebook to have a camera, just know that you should be looking for an update that is going to be a Chrome 99.x. So it's going to be a 99.x update, and so you're all probably not even eligible yet for Chrome 100. You're gonna have to wait for the Chrome 100 to roll out for Chrome OS for those devices. But one of those 99.x updates breaks it, but then the next one after that is what should hopefully fix it. And so just be mindful of the fact that if your camera's not working, it is likely not the hardware. It is likely the operating system or something related to the ARM-based chip. So I think it uses Intel Celeron. The Acer uses an Intel Celeron, but the others are all ARM chipsets. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, but there is seemingly a thread going through there, which something is going on with the relationship with the processor, and so it's causing some problems there. All right.
And our last announcement is Apple officially announced the WWDC 2022. So I'm on June 6th. And yes, I start getting excited and happy from now until then.
Well, so hopefully we'll do a special episode for
We
that
will.
show. This one's going to be all online. This WWDC again, so they're not bringing this in person, back in person, at least this year. So we'll be watching and then reporting back to you once we see what Apple has to say at WWDC 2022. All right, with that, Augusto, we have covered the productivity and related technology news this week. Thank you for putting together the show this and every week and making it all happen.
Pleasure.
All right, everybody. On anythingbutidle.com, you'll find our show notes. Those contain links to all the stories we discussed today, tools of the week, our productivity resources of the week, and also extra stories we aren't able to cover during the time we have together. So because of that, you can go over to anythingbutidle.com. This is episode 103, so it's anythingbutidle.com/103, and that's where you'll find the show notes. We also have a text transcript that's embedded in the page. Just click that read more link, or you'll see a PDF download link below that on the episode page. So after going to the show notes and reviewing the show notes, if we miss something, please let us know. You can leave a comment. You can tweet at us. You can DM us at Anything But Idle on Twitter. You can use our contact form on anythingbutidle.com. Many ways in order to tell us if we miss something. Also, if you want to engage in dialogue and conversation about the episode, you can join Personal Productivity Club and join our Anything But Idle channel in there. In essence, Personal Productivity Club is the digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, and there within the community, we have a specific group dedicated to Anything But Idle. So if you go to anythingbutidle.com/community, you'll be immediately taken to the registration page to register and join the Anything But Idle channel. And there you can comment on the posts. You can join us here during the live streams and engage in the live streams. All of those fun things can be done by joining anythingbutidle.com/community. All right. If this is your first time watching the live stream, feel free to click the subscribe button below the video. You can also thumbs it up, and that helps with YouTube and the algorithms and all kinds of other fun stuff. If you're listening to the podcast, feel free to add us by either following or subscribing for free within your favorite podcast app. If you've enjoyed spending and or watching and listening to us today, feel free to leave a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app you're using, and that really helps us. It helps us both because we enjoy the compliments, but it also helps to grow our personal productivity listening community, and so thank you for doing that. With that, we will see you all next time on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life.